This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. My name is Chris Blades, and before I get started today, I want to make sure I take the time out to remind you, as always, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure I was on top when we drop our latest stuff. Also, if you could please as well, give us a 5-star rating, write a nice review. Very appreciated, very helpful. Allows what you guys like, what you guys dislike, the ways we can improve, all that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, we're on social media, so you can find us there. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk. We can chat, we can debate, we can discuss, and it is nice. And we had one this week. We should have one next week as well. I'm trying to remember. Even the last couple weeks. I mean, the game itself wasn't that good, but the matchup was. In terms of like being able to discuss good Thursday night football games, because obviously back when it was like Eagles Giants and like Jets Broncos and things like that. Like there were some ones that weren't exactly inspiring to talk about. But, like I said, Cardinals, Seahawks, Colts, Titans was a good matchup on paper. Obviously, the game was not that close. Cardinals, Seahawks was obviously a very important game and was a very good matchup on paper. And the next week, I believe, is it not? Yeah, it is Ravens. Oh, next week is Thanksgiving. I forgot about that. So we have three. Only one of them is actually important because it's Texans, Lions, Washington, and Cowboys. Definitely terrible. But then we got Steelers, Ravens down the night, so that's good. I completely forgot next week was Thanksgiving. This year has gone by really slow, but also kind of flown by. It's very strange. But yeah, so Cardinals, Seahawks, good matchup, very important matchup as we talked about on last episode. It was almost a must-win for the Seahawks, just based on like having already lost to the Cardinals and just like where they started and kind of where they were at in the division. Like if you lose now you're talking about from being 5-0 in first place and maybe the best team in the conference. Now you're down to 6-4 and you may end up in like third place by the end of the weekend. And like I said, then you're two games back of the Cardinals essentially because now you've lost to them twice. So yeah, it would have just been an all bad situation. But luckily for the Seahawks, that did not happen. They were actually able to get the dub, 28-21. The defense, surprisingly, showed up this week. It's been much talked about. Obviously, not just me, but everybody that's talked about the Seahawks has talked about how terrible their defense has been, and has been quite poor over the course of the season. So it's not like it's not worth talking about. Like they were very bad. So I mean, you kind of can't hide that. But in this game, they did a fairly decent job. Like I said, only gave up 21 points, which again for the Seahawks is that might be a season low. Hold on, want to double check. 21 points is a season low. Like I said, in a game where the defense needed to show up, they did show up because the offense was fine. 28 points, like Russell Wilson. Didn't really do a whole lot through the air, but he didn't really have to. He was 23 of 28. So very efficient, 197 yards, 2 touchdown passes. The first one was a DK one. He has a nice little on-the-run play by him. And then the second one was, who was the second one to? Oh, Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett. So got a couple of touchdown passes there in the first half. Plus they had a field goal to give them a 16-7 lead. The Cardinals offense really kind of struggled throughout the course of the game. Had a couple 3-and-outs to start the half, or to start the game, if you will. Was able to get a touchdown there. I think what was this? ended first or going into the second quarter to tie the game up. Kyler Murray found Max Williams on the left sideline to set up a Kenyon Drake run from 2 yards out. And then the Seahawks responded. Like I said, that was a Tyler Lockett touchdown drive. So they went right back, went up 13-7. Then, like I said, 2 more punts from the Cardinals, and then the Seahawks were able to get a little field goal drive put together there at the end of the half. So, like I said, put them up 16-7. Then the second half is when the offense started coming around, which I definitely appreciated. The Cardinals opened the half with a nice little 11-play, 81-yard drive for a touchdown this time to Dan Arnold on a nice little fake jet touch pass. They were set up in a 4-wide situation, if I remember the play correctly. Or what? It might have been 5, honestly, because I know Chase hasn't went in motion. Then the other guys did some stuff, and then Dan Arnold they found him, or Kyler found him in the back of the end zone. So like I said, they cut it to a 2-point game. Then the Seahawks went down, had a nice little drive of their own, 8 plays, 72 yards. They got not a Kenyon Drake. I almost said Kenyon Drake. Carlos Hyde run from 2 yards out after getting a couple good runs from him on the drive. And then the Cardinals came right back. 15 plays, 90 yards of their own. With a touchdown drive, this one was to Chase Edmonds. He was wide open in the back of the end zone. Clearly, there was some sort of bust in the coverage. Somebody must have thought they were playing zone when they were playing man, or vice versa. Like I said, he just ran a little crossing route. It was obviously meant to kind of deceive and to trick them, but it worked because he was left wide open in the back of the end zone. All Kyler had to do was lob it up. And then after they forced the punt, the Cardinals did, came the biggest play of the game, which was a intentional grounding. It looked like they were going to try to set up some sort of a tight end screen to Dan Arnold, if I remember correctly. But then he kind of got held up because Jamal Adams was coming on the blitz, so he kind of got held up, and then he wasn't really sure what to do because he was kind of in the way. So then, instead of just standing there, he kind of started to go downfield because he thought maybe Kyler was going to run, and then Kyler threw it at his feet, but it didn't cross the line of scrimmage. I don't believe. And like I said, with Dan Arnold now running down the field, it's not like he was throwing it anywhere near him. So that was intentional grounding. That set the offense back, moved them back. I think they said they lost 14 yards on that play. Yes, they started the drive at the 14 and they end up at the 2 after the intentional grounding, and then they had a safety due to a hold in the end zone. And then, like I said, that 2-point swing. It didn't end the game, obviously, but then the 2 points, then Seattle gets the ball back, they drive down, kick a field goal. So now, Cardinals, when they were driving, potentially, to only down 2, to maybe take the lead, or with the field goal, touchdown, whatever. And now, like I said, now Seattle has to come down, put a drive together. They didn't get the ball back again until they were down 7. And like I said, their offense had mostly a little bit more, obviously much more scoring drives in the second half, but still overall they didn't really move the ball that efficiently throughout the course of the day. So then to expect them at the end of the game to drive down the field and score, not impossible, obviously, because the Seahawks defense still is bad, but unfortunately just wasn't able to happen. And they were able to drive a little bit down the field. Like I said, they put together a halfway decent drive based on some short passes and some runs, which, again, we'll talk about in a second, just the fact they didn't really attack down the field all that much. Which, again, maybe that was part of the game plan. Maybe it was due to an injury. I guess we'll find out over the next... I went out in the next few days that they don't play again until, I think, they don't play again until next Sunday. So, no reason to find out before Monday, Tuesday, when practice start. But yeah, they got, like I said, they got down to the Seattle 27. Then 4 straight incompletions. Well, 3 straight incompletions, excuse me. And then a sack. The second incompletion, the Quandre Diggs made a nice play on the ball to help break that up. It was kind of sort of close to pass interference, but because he was going for the ball and not going at the receiver, it was all good. And I think that was a fair and good no call. Obviously he did get there early, but again, if you're going for the ball, he's allowed to go for the ball. If the receiver happens to be in his way, that shouldn't be a flag, and it wasn't. And then, like I said, the third down, there was still pressure on him. He tried to throw it into the corner to Andy Isabella, wasn't able to get it off. And then the fourth down play, They ran a nice little, I forgot Carlos Dunlap just beat the guy around the edge. The third down plays was when they ran the little stunt to get a pass rusher free. So then the fourth down, they were able to, Carlos Dunlap was able to beat the right tackle and was able to get a sack, and then that was it. And they got some decent pressure on Kyler throughout the day. He was sacked 3 times, I believe twice by Dunlap, if I remember correctly. So he's obviously paying dividends for them since he came over from the Bengals. Yeah, O.J. Collier had the other sack. They hit Kyler 7 times. So again, he was under a little bit of pressure, definitely. Also, I think it was sometime early in the first half. I forget if it was first quarter, second quarter, but I know he kind of landed funny on his shoulder, and I think it was the first quarter. And they saw him other times like stretching out again, like a heat pattern, trying to throw and work through it. So like I said, it was interesting that throughout this game against a defense that it's not like they haven't given up big plays in the passing game. They didn't really attack down the field that much, so I thought that was interesting. Like I said, don't know if that was game plan specific or if that was because of injury. We won't really know, like I said, unless it comes out that he was hurt, why that was the case. But again, against a defense like that, where you have like a guy like DeAndre Hopkins and then other guys like Christian Kirk, Isabella, guys can get down the field, it does seem a little odd that they wouldn't be more aggressive in attacking them. A lot of stuff was short, a lot of stuff. And again, maybe it was because, like I said, the line wasn't its best today. I think I had a bunch of like false starts. Like obviously they were giving up pressures and sacks and stuff like that. So maybe he just wasn't really willing to push the ball down the field. And I know they were playing some too high safety. So again, that makes it a little bit more difficult to get the ball down the field. But it doesn't mean you just can, like, there are ways to attack every coverage. So again, it just seemed like in this game, Kai was willing to move off the deep pass a little bit early. Like I said, don't know if that was game plan or obviously I'm not out there on the field. I can't see what he sees. Maybe guys weren't open. But again, I thought that was interesting. The fact that they weren't able to attack down the field against the defense that, again, has been exploited through the air throughout the course of the season. But regardless, like I said, shout out to them. They stood up when they had to. Like I said, got pressure, made things difficult. Like I said, they couldn't really run the ball, the Cardinals, which was obviously that's a big part of their game. They only had 57 yards on the ground. Snapped their streak of, I believe they said 9 games in a row with 100 yards. And I believe that was in second. Now the streak, well, not now the streak, but the longest streak currently is the Ravens at 32 straight games, which, I mean, with Lamar Jackson playing, that's not like that shocking. But still, I mean, that's a lot to get 100 yards every game. And obviously that you rotate guys in the back and things like that, but still a lot. So like I said, Kenyon Drake couldn't really do anything. Kyle couldn't really do anything. Edmonds only had 2 carries. But he had 13 yards and 11 of them came on 1 runs. And that was like the last drive. So again, he hadn't done much running the ball throughout the game either. So that was big for the Seahawks to again stop the run and then force the Cardinals to have to pass the ball a lot and put them in long down distances, second and third down, things like that. And like I said, the Cardinals just weren't able to consistently convert those third downs and continue drives and, like I said, attack down the field and things like that. While the Seahawks, on the other hand, ran for 165. Carlos Hyde came back at himself a good day, 14 for 79, and like I said, a touchdown. Bo Scarborough had 6 for 31. DJ Dallas had 1 carry for 13 yards. Russ did his normal things, you know, his scrambles and things like that, added 42 yards on the ground. So, like I said, the Seahawks are a run-heavy team, like they play action a lot, things like that. So, getting the running game back going obviously helps make things easier on the offense. And that's what they had in this game. So it'll be interesting to see if they can continue that going forward with, like, obviously Carlos Hyde back. I think they say Chris Carson could be back next week when I think they play the Eagles on Monday night. So that'll be a fun one for the Eagles. But yeah, like their schedule down the stretch is not that hard. They play 3 NFC East teams and the Jets. I think we talked about this already. And then they play the Rams and Niners in the season. So like I said, this was a big game for them to win. Because like I said, now they're 7-3 at the top of the division. For the time being, I guess barring what happens with the Rams on Monday night. Like I said, you're at least 1 game clear of the Cardinals, which is good because, like I said, you're tied 1-1, so it's not like you have the clear advantage over them. And like I said, your schedule lightens up down the stretch. So, heading to those last 6 games with 7 wins already in your back pocket was going to be big for the Seahawks. and they were able to get the job done. So shout out to them. Like I said, see how they finish out throughout the rest of the season. See if they can get back to being considered maybe the top team in the NFC. They probably won't, because it'll probably be like the Bucks or the Saints or the Packers or somebody else. But like I said, at least now being back at the top of their division, they would put their name back in the hat for potentially being the top team in the NFC. And again, if their defense can play like this every week, for the rest of the season, obviously, then, like I said, that the outlook on them is different, in my personal opinion. Because again, right before this, they were just like a team with Russ kind of carrying them because the defense couldn't really do a whole lot. But if the defense can hold up their end of the bargain and not say they have to shut teams out or be like the Bears or the Steelers or anything like that, like then be dominant. Like they just need to not be absolutely historically terrible. And if they can do that, like I said, as long as Russ isn't turning the ball over, which he didn't today, also important. Then, like I said, the Seahawks can beat a good number of teams, a good number of good teams. So, like I said, we'll see kind of how the rest of the season plays out. But this was a big win for them, so shout out to them for getting the job done. So after we come back here, obviously the draft was on Wednesday, so we'll talk about that, talk about the top 10, how it kind of shook out, and then like some of the other surprises and picks I liked and interesting decisions, things like that went on during the draft, because the NBA draft is very hard to follow due to the weird rule with trades, which we will talk about because I hate it. So yeah, we'll talk about that right after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we're back. Here again, GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So obviously there was a lot of like trades and news and other things that went down over the past 2 days. Non-draft, well, partly draft related because obviously draft capital was traded, but also non-draft related. So like I said, we'll try to touch on that in the next segment, just because, just because, again, I don't want to make these segments too muddled and try to keep them singularly focused on one thing. So even the draft discussion, obviously, when we discuss teams like the Warriors, obviously their pick and their decision and things like that may or may not have been affected by certain things that happened. Like I said, we'll focus more on those in the next segment. So, just like I said, going through mainly focus on the top 10, and then, like I said, just pick out some other interesting names and selections that I liked over the course of the first round. Like I said, mainly just first round. So obviously the draft started off with the Wolves doing what I thought they should do, and that's picking Anthony Edwards. Again, they kind of needed somebody to run that too, and kind of play off of D'Angelo Russell and Karl-Anthony Towns. And I think Anthony Edwards could be that guy. Now, again, that's the thing about these drafts is like, number one, that you think that should be like perennial all-star, Hall of Famer type talent. I don't know enough about Anthony Edwards to know that's what he's going to do, but I know, based on what I've seen and what I've heard, read, things like that, he's going to be able to score the basketball. That at the very least, he's going to be able to do that when he walks in. So him being able to be, like I said, like they were saying, like 3-level score at like every level, help out the Wolves, like to take some pressure off of D'Angelo and Carl on the offensive end, makes him, like I said, in theory, a very good fit alongside those two. Again, the defense, we'll see how that kind of develops down the line. But Like I said, offensively, he should be able to be a guy that could score in the 20s for a majority of his career, which, again, is not a bad career to have. Like I said, number one, maybe you want a little bit more. You want, like I said, perennial All-Star, All-NBA, Hall of Fame type of talent. Don't know if Anthony Edwards could be that, but again, he should be able to score the basketball, which, again, will always keep you in the league, bar none. As like I said, I like that pick. Warriors at 2 drafted Wiseman, which, again, is what I thought they should do now. I did think that with the news, with the Klay Thompson news coming out, like, hours before the draft, and obviously, again, they probably knew it even before that, because, again, somebody had to leak it to, like, Woj and those guys for it to get out. So, like I said, the Warriors already knew at that point. So, that was when I thought things get a little interesting, because I was like, oh, maybe they'll, go drift away from their draft board, if you will, and maybe take a LaMelo Ball. Like I said, they chose not to. Again, I don't know what the reasoning for or against drafting LaMelo would have been in their minds. Like I said, everybody else has their own opinion, but in their minds, I don't know how the decision process was made. But it seemed like leading up to the draft, and like I said, when we talked about it on last episode, Wiseman made a lot of sense for them in terms of like fit and like what they need. Because like I said, they need people that are tall and young. They don't really have that many of those at this point in time. I just kind of ran through, like I said, their center power forward position is kind of scarce. And like I said, Wiseman's still young, could potentially even grow even more, but he's already 7 feet. Could add something that they've never really had. Like I said, the Warriors, obviously had Bogut starting for a year and things like that, but they've been built on being undersized. Instead of being able to play Draymond at the 5, and then obviously when KD came, he's 7 feet. But again, he's not technically a center. So like I said, that's the one thing they haven't had through their Warriors run is like the size, especially like I said with the youth. So that I thought that was going to be a good fit for him and a good fit for them with Wiseman. And again, we'll see how it plays out, but that's what they decided to go with. Not the Bulls, the Hornets who decided to keep the pick. Like I said, maybe not trade down with the Bulls or someone else that maybe wanted LaMelo and take him themselves. So I thought that was interesting, just kind of bringing LeVar full circle with the whole MJ comps that he was like touting, like back when Lonzo was going through the draft process, talking about how he could beat him 1-on-1 and all those other funny things. And I think that was kind of funny. But now his kid is potentially coming to, I don't know about save the franchise. I don't know how good LaMelo's going to make the Hornets. But he's coming to join the franchise, to say the least, and that means LeVar is coming too. Though again, he's kind of remained kind of quiet ever since the whole situation where he was kind of got swindled out of some money with the Big Baller brand. Ever since that kind of came out, he's kind of been relatively in the background, which is not a bad thing. But again, now that he's got 2 kids that have gone top 3 in the NBA, which no other family has ever had happen, we'll see if that brings some more out of him. And obviously, being down in Charlotte with Michael Jordan, see what that brings out of him. But like I said, the Hornets need someone that people are excited to come and watch. They'll be excited to come and watch LaMelo. Plus, again, they probably need a point guard of the future, just like a player for the future. Like I said, Terry Rozier, Malik Monk, Miles Bridges, PJ Washington I don't think was that bad last year, if I remember correctly. Like Devontae Graham was very good last year, but I don't know if he's like the future. He's just a guy that was able to put up a lot of shots and score some points on a very bad team. So we'll see if that holds. But yeah, like they needed somebody to get fans excited, to get the franchise excited, to build around. And LaMelo could very well be that. So shout out to them. Like I said, I wasn't sure if they were going to stick with the pick. Like I said, it makes no sense to try to try to get cute or second guess yourself. Like if there are three top players on the board, I mean, like on the board to start the draft, and you have the 3rd pick, that means you're getting one of those 3. So just take whichever one's there. That seems pretty simple. But yes, we'll see how that goes for the Hornets. The Bulls at 4 had the first surprise of the first round, taking Patrick Williams, who, again, many people like. Apparently, the Spurs are very big on him. Maybe potentially trying to trade up. Which, again, if they're trying to get a guy, then he probably is pretty good because they have a pretty good track record of drafting guys. Listen, the Bulls don't, but this is new regime, new front office, and it's not the Garpax front office of old. So, like I said, you maybe have to give them a little bit more leeway to decide if they're good or bad, because obviously this was their first draft together. But yeah, obviously it was a surprise because, like, again, he's a guy that didn't really even start on his own Florida State team in college, but Apparently, the coach Leonard Hamilton talked very highly of him. I mean, again, obviously, he finished a lot of games. Was, I think, the 6th man of the year in the ACC. So, again, it's not like he didn't play a lot. He just didn't start. So, like I said, that's always a little wary. But, again, if he has the tools and the skills and the intangible that you think could blossom into a very high-level player, it doesn't matter if he didn't start. Like, you look at guys like Devin Booker. He didn't start on his college team. With Kentucky, they did the whole platoon thing. And you see where he's at now, as opposed to guys that did start on that team. So, like I said, it doesn't really matter where you, like I said, if you start or didn't start on your college team, as long as you are willing to put the work in and grow and develop your game. Once you get to the pros, I'm at 5. The Cavs drafted Isaac Okoro from, I think it's from Auburn, yeah, small forward. Interesting. I mean, not like that interesting, but like he's a guy that was supposed to go pretty high, if I remember correctly. And again, they need like some wing guys to kind of help out. So they drafted Colin Sexton and Darius Garland and Kevin Porter Jr. last couple of years. They got a bunch of guards. They're gonna need some more wings. And I still have Drummond there. I still have Kevin Love there. So again, wing guys probably what they could use. And he's a very explosive guy. Can catch lobs. Very athletic. Good profile to maybe grow into his frame and develop his skills even more. Because things he's like 6'6". Was a very good defender also in college. So that's always a plus. So again, we'll have to grow his offensive game. But like I said, probably not a bad pick. The Hawks got Onyeka from USC, which again is a good pick for them, in my opinion, because they need somebody to play a little bit of defense on that team. And Onyeka is a guy that's going to play some defense, I believe, and then hopefully he can grow his offensive game. Like I said, power forward, maybe a guy that could help. Well, again, because I got to see what they're going to do with John Collins, because obviously they still have him there. But obviously good size, good frame. Like I said, was a very good defensive player at USC. Was all Pac-12 first team, 16 and almost 9 in college. Started every game as a true freshman. So that's always a plus. So like I say, he's a guy that can maybe box some shots, and help out on that end of the floor, and obviously develop his offensive game. Maybe be a good like pick and roll guy with Trae Young, and all the other offensive pieces that they've added over the years, and continue to be like efficient as like I said, as a lob threat, a screen, a rebound, and like I said, continue to grow his defensive side. So I like that pick for them. The Pistons drafted Killian Hayes, which was an interesting one because a lot of people had Tyrese Hillebrand, the point guard. I think he's from Iowa State, rated a little bit higher than him. But hey, if you like a guy, you draft him. This guy, he's an international guy, an overseas guy, 6'5", 6'8" wingspan. Not gonna say I know a whole lot about the overseas guys, but hey, they kind of need a point guard. So if they think this is the guy, it makes total sense. The Knicks at 8 drafted Obi Toppin, which was an interesting pick for me, only because again at the time they had a lot of forwards and they could kind of use a guard. You would think, but again, he's a very good offensive player. So again, you're gonna need some offense there because Julius Randle's not gonna be there forever. And obviously, they let go a couple guys like Bobby Portis and Taj Gibson and stuff like that to clear space. So he's going to have some playing time at his disposal this season. So again, if he can grow on the defensive end with the offensive game that he already has, you'd think that he could be a good fit on the Knicks because again, they're going to need people that score points and need people to get people excited. And obviously, he's has a lot of flashy dunks and things like that on the fast breaks and things over the course of the college season. He was obviously Player of the Year, if I remember correctly. So again, it's not like he's a bad player at all. Obviously just not a guard, which you would thought they needed a little bit more than they needed another forward. But hey, if he's good, if he's the Amara Stoudemire that people apparently think he could be, then hey, like again, it's not a bad pick at all. And obviously can help grow alongside Mitchell Robinson and RJ Barrett, guys like that. So then you got at 9, you had the Wizards drafting Denny. So I think, who did they drafted Rue last year? Obviously, he went to Gonzaga, but like he's another like foreign guy. Let's see, like I think he's Japanese, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so Denny, he's a guy that many people think could be the best player in the draft eventually. Obviously, maybe not right now, but eventually. 6'9",
Good size, good quickness. Doesn't have elite athleticism, but neither did Luka. See how that worked out. Again, not saying the kid's going to be Luka, obviously, because it's very hard to be Luka. But again, in terms of his again size and experience, obviously played a lot overseas before coming over. Has very good vision and ball handling. Has nice passing ability. If he can get a shot together from long range. Then that can obviously add to his game because in this version iteration, I don't say iteration, but in the game today, you have to be able to shoot, especially if you're going to be handling the ball a lot. Look at Ben Simmons, look at Giannis. Like I said, they make life harder for the rest of your team and make things easier to defend on yourself when you have the ball out and can't shoot, because then obviously guys can sag off, pack the paint, things like that. So even if you're a great passer like he supposedly is, and instead if you can't get a shot together, then, like I said, it's going to make him easier to defend. So, like I said, that'll be an interesting one. And again, a guy that can maybe grow alongside John Wall, Bradley Beal, if they're going to stay around. Bradley Beal's staying around. I don't know about John Wall. But again, add a nice young piece for them to go alongside them on that Wizards team. So, like I said, his people think his upside's crazy. Could be the best player in the draft, like I said. So, if that plans out, then hey, the Wizards got a nice guy at number 9, and then 10, Jalen Smith from Maryland, if I remember correctly. He went to the Suns. This is an interesting one, just because again he's a guy, another big guy, 6'10", but apparently he's a very good pick and roll guy. And obviously now having Chris Paul on as your floor general, that seems like a nice little pairing. Again, don't know how long they'll play together, but still. You want a guy who's going to maximize a young guy's pick and roll ability. Chris Paul seems like the guy that you would want to pair him with. So, like I said, shout out to him. And also, I think he's pretty good on defensive end as well. So help out on that side of the ball. Like I said, 6'10", 7'2", wingspan. But still, like I said, has good agility. And like I said, is a solid defender, along with being a good pick and roll big man. So, like I said, when you can play off him, when you can play off Chris Paul and Devin Booker and those guys, and get some easy baskets at the rim, because people are going to have to defend them a little bit harder than they'll defend you. Make things interesting. Now, I don't know how the fit's going to be next to DeAndre Ayton, because, again, if both guys are just... not that Ayton can step out and shoot the ball a little bit. I don't know about from 3, but he can step out and shoot it a little bit. So, that's good. But, again, if Smith isn't like that with the shot yet, then, again, it's going to congest some things. So, we'll have to see how they... But, again, I don't expect them to start or anything like that. But, yeah, so that's the top 10 broke down. Some of the other interesting ones were obviously, like I said, Halliburton, went to the Kings. So, like I said, they have De'Aaron Fox there, so you don't necessarily need a point guard. But a lot of people think that he's best off the ball, Halliburton. So if that is true, then obviously then that makes sense, especially if you're trying to get rid of Buddy Hield. Then they're maybe or maybe not going to keep Bogdanovich, because I don't really know what happened. Now, obviously, we'll talk about that in the next segment, how that deal kind of fell through with the Bucks. But yeah, if you can play him off the ball, then, like I said, I think him and De'Aaron Fox could work. Like I said, he's a very good passer, unselfish, good distributor. So like I said, has a decent shot, probably needs to get it a little bit better. But again, I think him and Fox can kind of play off each other. So that's an interesting one, because again, a lot of people were very high on him, and he fell to 12. So that's good. For the Kings, also again, just selfishly, I'm curious to see how this Alexei Pokashevsky guy is, the guy that the Wolves drafted and is being traded. Well, the Thunder traded up to get him, but obviously the pick is made by the team that originally had it, which is dumb. Like I said, I might go into more in the next segment, because I think it's very stupid how they do that. But like I said, I'm curious about him because he's a young guy. I think he's like only 19 years old, from Greece, I think. I don't know if he's from the same league or a similar league that Giannis came from. And he's, like I said, he's probably one of the most polarizing names in the draft, only because he's like I said, 7 feet tall, like 200 pounds. I think he's bulked up a little bit since last people I saw him. But again, he's a guy kind of like Jokic, like 7 feet, can go grab the rebound, can handle the ball, can shoot from deep, can run and break. Things like that. And again, obviously he's a little bit smaller and screennier than Jokic is, especially even when he came into the league. So he's a little bit faster than him. Obviously that would be a great get to have. And obviously Jokic, I think went in the second round. So obviously, everybody would take Jokic in the first round if they could, knowing what they know now. But still, like I said, the Thunder probably need a center for the future because Steven Adams is on the last year of his deal. He'll obviously trade for anything like that, but he's not the future. And again, if you can, with all their first round picks you have, you can take some home run swings later in the draft. Obviously, if they ever have a pick in the top 5, so you want to hit that. But again, if you have a pick in the 20s or in the late teens or whatever, you can take a swing on an upside and see, like, hey, can we develop him into what we think he could be? Because if you do, like I said, those are the picks that really help transform your franchise. Like I said, you're supposed to hit on the top picks, but like I said, you have guys like Jokic that come out of the second round and are all-stars. Draymond Greens, like I said, the Kawhis, the Siakams, the guys that aren't in the lottery that you can get and develop into all-star caliber players. Like I said, that's what really propels franchise to the next level. Like I said, it's easy. I'm saying it's easy because it's not easy to hit on picks, but in theory, you should hit on the higher picks more than the lower picks. So that when you do hit on those lower picks, especially when you get them to be all-star caliber, that's always beneficial to the team. And a couple other guys I wanted to talk about were the 2 Kentucky guys, Maxey and Precious Achiuwa, Achiuwa went to the Heat. So again, they're continuing their trend of drafting Kentucky guys later, and like not in the top 5. Obviously, Bam and Hero were both lottery picks, but again, they've had success with them. They've maybe been the bigger steals of their draft, you could argue. Obviously, Hero, it's hard to say for certain. It's only been 1 year. But again, a lot of people like the fit with Achiuwa. And again, it's like Pat Riley, like they usually have a good track record of picking guys, so you would think that this one would work out. And then, like I said, Maxey, he's a guy that obviously didn't shoot that well this past year, but he's apparently been putting in a lot of work. And again, he was a guy that took and made a lot of big shots for Kentucky. And again, if he continues to grow that shot, then he could be a very good addition to the Sixers team that again needs as much shooting as possible to help go alongside Ben Simmons and Embiid, and Tobias Harris and those type of guys, like I said. The Ben Simmons and Embiid were at their peak when they had a lot of shooters surrounding them. So obviously, Maxey can develop into that as at the guard position, which is again something they need because their guards are like all right, like they need to. That's really what they need to improve at. So again, if he continues to grow his offensive game and continue to knock down the outside shot effectively, and again can also play good defense, then like I said, that's a home run for the Sixers. And like I said, a lot of people thought he should have and could have gone earlier. So this was also one of the bigger steals, if you will. Like I said, it's hard to say for certain wherever these picks happen. Like I said, a lot of people like Maxey. I think he could really be something, really be a contributor to a team. And the Sixers got him at 21. So like I said, that's not someone I imagine they thought was going to be there when they picked. And so obviously they were probably happy when they were happy when they got him. But like I said, if he can develop into what people think he could be, and that's a great fit there in Philly with that team. So like I said, that's just a recap of some of the first round picks and things like that. Obviously, there's a lot more picks that happened, a lot more craziness that happened, both during the draft, before the draft, and after the draft. So we would talk about some of those things, mainly starting with the Warriors and what their situation is with Clay and kind of where they go from here right after this break. So stay right there.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So before I get into the Warriors talk and kind of where they go from here after the recent Clay news, like I said, I just wanted to touch on the draft one more time, just because I wanted to say I think it's really dumb how they can't trades aren't official until after, I think was it after the moratorium or something, I forget exactly when trades can become with draft picks involved. Obviously it can become official because obviously some of the other trades did become official, but like I said, on draft day, for whatever reason, due to the rules that the NBA has, even if a pick is traded or whatever, it still says oh, this team is making the selection, even though we know they're not making the selection because it's for somebody else. So someone else making the selection, but still they have to go through the whole process of them talking about oh, would this person be a good fit on this team, even though he's not ever going to be there. Then he wears a hat of a team he's never going to play for. That's all very dumb and also very confusing. Just because it's hard to keep track of who's going where because of the fact that they had them drafted by a team they're not. And again, when the picks are traded, obviously not every pick is traded, so sometimes they do actually go to those teams. But there are times where a team's picking for somebody else, or that the pick's going to be traded or has been traded or things like that, and the original team is still on the name of the pick. So I said, and then again, given the hat, even though they're not ever going to go to that team. Like I said, they talk about them joining the team and playing alongside them in a weird way, even though they're never, like I said, they're never going to play for the team. It's again, it's just weird for everybody involved, because it's weird for the analysts to be they're talking about a player and going to a team or trying to pick a player for a team that isn't even on the board. It's weird for the player to then be happy to be selected by said team, even though he will never play a second for that team, at least not immediately. Like I said, maybe down the line or something like that. And it's weird for the interviewer, because now you're talking about them going to a team, even though they're really not. And you have to talk about them joining up with this person or that person, even though they're going to be on a completely different team, because you can't then talk about it because of the way the rules are done. So when you have trades in the NFL, they trade the pick and then you're all right, this team's on the board. And then they draft. Why? I don't understand why the NBA does it like this. It's it's very confusing and it's very weird, and I don't get it. Like I said, it's been like this for a while. I don't say for forever, because I don't know that for it to be a fact, but it's been like this for a while. And it's like I said, this is just what they do. Like I said, with as often as picks are traded, just in general, it's very hard to keep up with. Who's being drafted where? Because then you see your teams on the board. Oh, they're picking, okay, we picked this guy, and come to find out, oh, actually you're trading the pick for something else, and it's oh, well, I mean, cool, that would have been nice to know beforehand. Again, obviously, the good thing about social media is that you can see those things, and also, and just one other thing, is the fact that, again, since you have guys like Woj and Shams that tweet out the picks ahead of time, again, that's the NFL issue as well. If your team's coming up, you basically have to stay off social media, because if you don't, then you'll know the pick 5 minutes beforehand. But again, I don't know if it's just an ESPN thing, because obviously they run the NBA and the NFL drafts. But you have to find a way to speed the analysis up, because again, you'll have a pick that'll be not officially be in, but you'll have it be tweeted out 5-10 minutes before the actual pick is made. So now you got the analysts talking about all this other stuff, oh, they should pick this person, they should pick that person. All the while, while you're explaining all this, we already know who's being picked by the team, or if the pick's being traded, or like I said, everything. It just makes the analysts look dumb, personally. But again, that's just my 2 cents about the draft. So, now that that's done, we will transition to the Warriors and their unfortunate situation now with Clay having an Achilles tear, being down for a second season in a row, and just kind of what they do from here. Because obviously, a big part of drafting James Wiseman was we'll have Steph back, we'll have Clay back, we'll have Wiggins, Draymond, all right, cool, we got stuff going now. Now with Clay gone, he's it's done for him, at least for this next season. Again, completely change the trajectory of the team. Like I said, with Clay, Steph, Wiggins, Draymond, Wiseman, and whoever else at the center position. You're expecting to compete. Now, I'm not gonna say you're gonna win the finals or get to the finals or anything like that, but you're gonna compete. Compete for a playoff spot, and things like that. Now, again, they'll probably still compete, because again, Steph Curry is enough to at least keep you relatively competitive.
But, like, now what are they competing for? Because, again, well, especially when, like, their pick, which, again, they're trading it for Kelly Oubre, which they might have already done, or they might have been going to do regardless of what happened with Clay, but obviously with Clay, they probably expedited it. So they're trading their pick to OKC, and I think it's top 20 protected, I want to say. So like I said, not to say incentivizes you to be bad, but it kind of incentivizes you to be bad. So like I said, if you're outside of the top 20, then that means you had a good year, but you don't have a first round pick. And if you are inside, which again they might very well be, because I don't know how good the team will be even with Kelly Oubre on the roster now. And then, like I said, then you get to keep your first round pick and add to that for hopefully when Clay is back next year. But even then, like I said, it's hard to say because we just don't know anymore. What he will be like, or if, like I said, well, obviously we know he'll never be the same because again, now an ACL and now an Achilles tear. For a guy that, again, wasn't an athletic freak, but he was a defensive guy, so that they run around screens and stuff, like it's going to definitely hamper his speed and agility and things like that, ability to change directions, you would think. So like I said, the Klay Thompson that we knew, I should say, was probably no more, and like I said, that's unfortunate for not just the Warriors, but for basketball in general, because he's provided a lot of great and historic moments over the course of his career. But like I said, the Warriors aren't going to be the same. So it's like, what do you do? Like I said, with Steph there, you're going to be too good to bottom out. The reason they were able to bottom out this year was because they knew Klay was going to be out. And then once Steph got hurt, it was like, oh, well, Draymond can't carry this team by himself, obviously. And so it was like, oh, okay, we're just to bottom out, get James Wiseman, then we'll be back next year. Now, again, assuming Steph is healthy, or assuming like all of them are healthy. Again, you never know with injuries. But if Steph is healthy, you're going to be too good to bottom out again. Like, you probably won't be picking top 2 again next year. So like I said, then what do you do? Like I said, now you're going to have Wiggins on a questionable contract. You have Draymond on a questionable contract. And now Klay, coming off of back-to-back missed seasons, will be on a questionable contract. Because, again, he'll be 2 years removed from playing, making max level or near max level money. And you don't know what he's going to be like when he returns. Like I said, now it gets like a shoulder, like a hand, or like an elbow where you're like, all right, well, he has a surgery, and like once he gets the range of motion back, he'll be fine. Like I said, ACL, and then Achilles. For a guy over 30, you just don't know what he'll be like once he gets back on the court. And especially for a guy like him. Again, he's not an athletic freak, he's not Westbrook, he's not John Moran, he's not Zion, where, like, again, those kind of injuries could severely derail them in terms of their athletic ability. But again, he's still a guy that needs to, he does a lot. Like I said, he runs around a lot and defends guys. So like I said, if his defense isn't there, and like I said, his ability to run around screens and get open that way, because he doesn't dribble. Like, that's not how he gets open. Like I said, that changes him, A, and B, it changes the Warriors' identity completely as a team. So that's what I'm saying. That's the issue right now, is that you don't really know what the team's going to look like, and then because of that, it's like, what do you do? Like I said, obviously, they traded for Kelly Oubre, so he's still going to give them something, assuming he's as good as he was in Phoenix last year. So yeah, it's better than nothing. Like Oubre, Wiggins, Draymond, Steph. Like, that's not a bad team. It's obviously much worse than it would be if Klay was in there. But it's not a bad team. So again, what do you do? Like I said, because the worst thing you could be is in the middle. Like I said, I've always talked about, like, either you're competing for a championship or you're tanking. Then maybe not officially tanking, but like, you get the point. Like, either you want to be really bad or you want to be really good. Like that weird middle ground where you're like the 7th, 8th seed for years, kind of competing, just getting knocked out in the first round every year. That does nothing for you, other than, I guess, give you a little extra revenue for the playoffs. I'm saying you're not bad enough to get a good enough draft pick to get a major difference maker, and again, unless you're excellent scouting team, which obviously the Warriors aren't a bad one. Like I said, unless you're like a supreme scout, like picking in the teens and 20s every year is not really going to make a drastic difference on your team, most likely. And like I said, then if you're not competing for a championship, then like I said, you just get knocked out in the first round every time. And who wants to do that? Like, you want to get to the playoffs because you want to compete for a championship. If you just keep on getting knocked out in the first round, like, what does that do for you? So like I said, it's one of those weird situations where you don't, like I said, the Warriors are like in that tough spot on what they do. Again, assuming everybody's healthy. Like I said, do Do you wait for Clay to come back after next season and like hope like, hey, like now we're back, guys? Or like do you start to blow it up? Like I said, Draymond's contract's a little shaky. Clay's contract's going to be very shaky. Now he's missed a couple of years. Like I said, Wiggins' contract, depending on what you think about him, is already shaky. So it's a very weird spot the Warriors find themselves in now. And again, it's not really their own fault because injuries do happen. It's just an unfortunate situation for him and the team and basketball in general. But like I said, now they're kind of like, like I said, they're in a weird spot. And they're kind of at a crossroads. And it's like, what do you do? Like, do you go all in and try to compete? Or do you try to tank again? And if you're, or like even like I said, or the third option, just start blowing it up. Because like it's clear the Warriors, as we knew it, will never be the same. So, interesting dynamic. Speaking of teams that will never be the same. The Sixers. Like I said, obviously we talked about them getting Tyrese Maxey. And how he could help that team. Also drafted Isaiah Joe, I believe, later on. Another guy that's a really good shooter. I forget what school he went to. But I know he was a really good shooter in college. So again, they're trying to add to their shooting ability. Obviously traded for Danny Green, so that helps. But probably the biggest move they made was getting off of Al Horford's contract. They were able to trade him as a part of the Danny Green trade, if I remember correctly, to OKC. Now, I don't know what OKC is going to do with him yet, but, well, they have no rush, I guess, to trade him. Just kind of didn't have a rush to trade Chris Paul. But yeah, so now he's off the books, which potentially may clear a path for them to acquire another top-level talent. I don't think it'll be James Harden, because that'll be still a little tricky. As in terms of salaries and, like, who would you give up? Like, you give up Ben Simmons? Like, no, there's no way. I'm not saying there's no way. Like, you trade Ben Simmons for James Harden, no offense. But I just don't think they would do that. I'm going to try to find a way to fit, and Tobias Harris not getting the job done. I'm hanging up if your best offer involves Tobias Harris. No offense to him. Or maybe, like I said, could you get Zach LaVine from the Bulls if the Bulls don't want to keep him around and maybe he wants out? Like, that seems like a much more plausible option at this point to maybe get get Tobias on the team. But again, I mean, not to get Tobias, get Zach LaVine. Like I said, Daryl Morey came in and basically in like a couple days, more or less, one off season, but like in a very short period of time, tried to undo everything Elton Brand had done to the team. Like I said, with the contracts with Horford, and like I said, the lack of shooting on the roster. Added, like I said, Danny Green. Added Seth Curry as well, who may be the best shooter in his family, which is again wild when you have Steph in your family. But again, I think he shoots like 44% from three or something like that. Like he's like has one of the highest 3-point percentage like marks for a career in NBA history. So again, he's definitely not a slouch. Again, not Steph Curry, but he's clearly a marksman. And like I said, with the young guys they added in to the draft, they added in the draft. Like I said, that greatly addresses what their biggest need was. Now they still probably need a point guard. So we'll see about that. But again, the team last year lacked shooting outside of like Korkmaz, really. Like they lacked shooting. Arkansas, Isaiah Joe's from Arkansas. I just looked that up. You know how I do. I just like randomly blur things out. But yeah, he's from Arkansas. So like I said, just wanted to make sure I got that right for you guys. Like I said, I don't like to give you guys faulty information. But yeah, so he was from Arkansas. I want to just double check his shooting stats. Yeah, it was bad. It was down last year. But as a freshman, he shot 41% from three. So, like I said, it was a very good shooter. So, as I was discussing, yeah, so when you had J.J. Redick, you had Bellinelli, you had Ilyasova around them 2 years ago? I guess 3 years ago? Yeah, I think it was 3 years ago. Like, their offense was very and highly efficient. And obviously got less efficient with Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris around, but obviously the team overall was better. Because, again, Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler are better than J.J. Redick. And though J.J. was still there, but like they're better than Bellinelli and Ilyasova and those type of guys. And obviously this past year, their offense was definitely much worse. But again, partly because of Horford and the bad fit, but also the rest of the team couldn't really shoot the ball that well. So again, that congests things around Ben Simmons and around Embiid. So again, when you have Danny Green out there, which, I mean, at least in theory, he's a good shooter, but in actuality with the Lakers, he was very inconsistent, that's kind of what he's going to be at this point, is inconsistent. Seth Curry is obviously nothing like that. He's very consistent when it comes to shooting the ball, and also can handle the ball. With that second unit, can do things off the dribble a little bit like he did in Dallas. So that's big. Also, funny enough, Doc Rivers traded. I mean, it's not just them, but traded for his son-in-law. Yeah, I think he's dating, or he's married to Doc Rivers' daughter. So that's kind of funny. Just to keep the family close, if you will. But yeah, so like I said, the Sixers kind of came in a couple days, undid all the issues that they had with the team. Like I said, added some good guys in the draft that a lot of fans liked and a lot of analysts and stuff liked, and then, again, addressed their biggest need. Well, their two biggest needs. One, getting off Horford's bad contract. Quick and easy. We were able to do that. And didn't have to give up a pick like 2025 or something like that. So, like I said, you have to give a first-round pick, but at this point, you're not worried about a pick 5 years in the future. You're worried about right now and how can we make our team better in the immediate, and that'll definitely do it. And then, like I said, on the flip side of it, you're also adding shooting in Danny Green and then Seth Curry. So, like I said, it'll be interesting to see kind of how the Sixers play, and if those additions that Daryl Morey has brought in vastly improve the offense, which I think it should, because obviously they have more spacing now. But again, if worst comes to worst, you don't have Al Horford's contract on the books. That in and of itself is and always will be a win for the Sixers. So, if nothing else, him getting off of Al Horford's contract means Daryl Morey has done his job as the GM, or whatever he is. I think like Elton Brand's still technically a GM, but you get the point. Like, whatever he is, he's done his job. So shout out to the Sixers for doing that. So after we come back here, more, like I said, there's a lot of NBA stuff to talk about. And I also touched on, I also want to talk about how Cano tested positive for steroids again, and now he's out for the season, but I might not be able to touch on that as much as I would like. So, like I said, we'll talk about, after we come back from break, we'll talk about Gordon Hayward turning down $34 million, and how I would never do such a thing, though I'll never be in the position to do that. And also how the Bogdanovich trade fell through and kind of what that means for the Bucks going forward and keeping Giannis and all that stuff. So we'll discuss that after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And we're back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So Gordon Hayward is a better man than myself, because I'm not 100% sure what it would take for me to turn down 34 million American dollars. Now, mind you, will I ever be offered 34 million American dollars in my life? Most likely no. Like, the chances of that at this point seem very slim to about zero. So I don't ever have to worry about this problem and what I would do in the scenario. But shout out to Gordon Hayward, because I don't imagine this decision was easy. Even if he wanted to leave Boston, even if, again, he didn't want to be on the team anymore, he wanted to go move on somewhere else, greener pastures, what have you, he still could have opted in and then been traded from there. He was like, you know what? I don't even want to deal with you guys having to trade me. I just want out. I want to be a free agent on Friday and then just go about it that way. So again, shout out to him, because I don't think I could have done this. And I don't know if there are many people out there right now that could have done this. I said, not even just like in regular life, because obviously people in regular life aren't turning this kind of money down. But I'm talking about even in the NBA. Like, again, you see guys opt into their contracts all the time. Because, again, it's hard to just give back $34 million or, like, even if your team option was like 15. You see guys opt into that all the time. Because, again, $15 million is $50 million more dollars that I will have, as opposed to turning it down, maybe going to the open market, and maybe not getting that much. So I said, I don't really expect him to get $34 million on the open market, personally. But hey, maybe he knows something I don't. Because again, I would have just opted in and then like, hey, look, trade me. And then like, we'll figure it out from there. But like I said, that bold move, good for him. Like I said, I don't think that decision came easy. But it's an interesting one because obviously, he's a guy that played pretty well last year when he was healthy with the Celtics. That's kind of been the story of his time with the Celtics, that he hasn't been healthy. Obviously, he missed his whole first year. And then obviously he was a little bit banged up this year, especially once the bubble started. And I forget if he was, and obviously last year he was recovering from being, I'm trying to remember how long ago was that. Okay, so he got hurt his first game with the Celtics. So that was what? Because that was against the Cavs. So I want to say that was like 3 years ago almost. Like 2017, 2018. So he missed all of that year. In 2018, 2019, he came back again. He was still kind of easing his way back in. Was kind of a shell of himself. Then this past year, he was better. A better version of himself. Still not the same, but a better version. And obviously he got hurt again. So there's that. So like I said, I could kind of understand why he would want out of Boston only because, again, now with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and now Marcus Smart and those guys, now they got Kemba there, it's like, where does he fit in? And that point, obviously, when they go small, it works. But again, they're not going to start small all the time. Like, he's going to come off the bench. And maybe that's just not what he wants to do anymore. Even if he's playing for his former college coach. And still, like, there's still a bit of pride and things like that. And being like, hey, look, I think I can be more of a contributor than what my role is currently with this team. So then, hey, why don't I go and try to move on to, like I said, somewhere else where I think I may have a better opportunity for myself. And I said, that's the case. And I'm not mad at him for that. I'm not mad at him for whatever. Because, again, his decision, his life. I'm not going to tell people what they should or should not do in their decisions. Because, again, they are not mine to make. But like I said, just turn down that much money is kind of wild when you look at it on paper. But like I said, in terms of options available to him now, it seems like the three would be the return to Celtics on a longer term deal. But again, if you want to do that, I don't know why you turn down $34 million, because you could just get $34 million and do the same thing next offseason. But again, who knows? Apparently, there was some interest with the Knicks as well as the Hawks. I thought there was potentially even a trade that was going to go down with the Hawks for like John Collins. I thought I saw that floated out there. I could be wrong about that. But again, so they seem teams that are interested in adding him. Again, they have ample amount of cap space. The Knicks, I don't imagine, well, especially with Tibbs, I don't think they want to be a rebuilding team forever. So if they can bring him in, maybe add Van Vliet, then we'll go along with RJ Barrett, like Toppin, Mitchell Robinson, Julius Randle, some of the other guys. Then they might be a competitive team, especially in the East, because the teams in the East last year were not that good. Obviously, Nets will be a lot better. But the teams in the East weren't that good. Like, they could potentially beat out the Magic. Or the Magic, Hawks, then like those would be the teams competing for that 8th spot, most likely, if everyone else holds. Because, like I said, no one else should really drop that far. Well, maybe the Raptors. We'll see about them. Like I said, you lose Van Vliet, you lose Ibaka. Like, they're not going to be the same team. So maybe they could drop out. But again, we'll have to see about that. And still got a good coach. Still going to have Siakam, OG, Kyle Lowry. Like, they're not going to just bottom out completely, you would think. But again, you never really know. So like I said, those seem to be the teams that would be interested in him. And also, obviously, their sign and trade options for teams that don't have enough cap space to just sign him outright. And also, they'll Boston be able to get something back for him. So again, if he's leaving on good terms in terms of like why he wanted out, then maybe a sign and trade is also available. So again, a lot of options available to him in regards to what could be next. But again, I thought that was kind of interesting because you would have thought that, hey, just opt in and then get traded from there if it's that serious. But nope, he wants to be a free agent. So like I said, we'll see if it's a sign and trade situation, if he's just an outright signing for someone. Like I said, like the Knicks, Hawks potentially. We really won't. Well, I mean, we'll like to see on Friday. Like I said, 6 p.m. I believe is when free agency starts. So we'll see about that. But yeah, I know I personally was shocked when I heard about this. So now, like I said, I did not expect this to. Well, I don't expect anybody to turn that much money. Like him wanting out of Boston is what it is. Like I said, in terms of where he's kind of at in the hierarchy of that team, or the level of importance, like he's kind of low on the totem pole. So like, all right, maybe he wants a bigger opportunity. Completely understand that. But I said, turn it out there for $1 million. I did not see that coming. And speaking of things I did not see coming, apparently Bogdanovich may or may not be going to the Bucks. It sounds like the deal is kind of falling apart. I think they waived Ilyasova, who was supposed to be a part of the deal. So that would, in my opinion, imply that the deal is kind of off the table now, which is kind of wild because it seemed like that was the whole thing Monday night or Tuesday, whenever it was. Like, oh, they're getting Drew Holiday and Bogdanovich. That's really going to help convince. I mean, I don't know about help convince, but again, that'll entice Giannis to maybe consider signing the Supermax extension earlier and want to stay. Though, there's no real reason to. Just you can sign Supermax in free agency next year. Just see how the season plays out. Like, no reason. I think if he signs it, I think he can't be traded for 2 years or whatever. So basically, you're stuck for a couple years. I don't want to say stuck as if he wants to go anywhere, but like. You can't go anywhere. Like, that makes zero sense, in my opinion. Like, why limit your options? But whatever. Like I said, so that Bogdanovich, the Holiday deal still seems good, but the Bogdanovich deal is falling apart. And now the NBA is looking into it. So, according to ESPN, the NBA is investigating whether a failed sign and trade agreement that would have sent Bogdan Bogdanovich from the Kings to the Bucks happened earlier than league rules allow, sources confirmed to ESPN. News of the league's investigation was first reported Thursday by the New York Times. The NBA's free agency period begins Friday. It was widely reported that Milwaukee and Sacramento had reached an agreement in principle on a sign and trade deal Tuesday that would have sent Bogdanovich and Justin James to the Bucks. The Kings would have got back Dante DiVincenzo, DJ Wilson, and Ilyasova, sources said. If the agreement occurred Tuesday, it would have been 3 days earlier than the free agent negotiations were permissible. The Bucks and Kings hoped to bring the Bogdanovich framework of a sign and trade to negotiate a Bogdanovich contract with Milwaukee on Friday, of course, according to sources. The deal fell through, and Bogdanovich said later that he planned to enter restricted free agency. On Thursday, the Kings extended Bogdanovich a qualifying offer for $10.7 million, giving the Kings the right to match any offer sheet Bogdanovich signs with another team. So yeah. This is intriguing only because, it sounds kind of illegal when you think about it. Because it's like, oh, okay, so we have our free agent period is this day. Cool. And again, obviously, because the people sign contracts like right at 12:01 when it used to be over when it was July or whatever. July 1st, you signed contracts 12:01, what have you. So again, that implies that there was some sort of agreement done because no one could have agreed to a framework of a deal and then signed it in a minute, you would think. Like I said, so this isn't a new thing, I don't think necessarily, but I don't think also at the same time you don't really hear about oh yeah, we're going to sign and trade a guy that's not able to do that because he's a free agent. Obviously, if you're signing and trading him, then that means that you agreed to sign him, well, like the Kings did, and then trade him. But that's not possible because he's potentially a free agent. Also, again, in order to be signed and trade, the Bucks would have had to talk about Donovan to see hey, are you cool with coming here? And hey, this is what we can offer you. So this is what we're gonna have them. There's a lot of details that need to be worked out that wouldn't have been possible to be worked out without them discussing it beforehand, which again is impossible. So I do understand the investigation, but like I said, from the Bucks side of things, the fact that this fell through is kind of a problem. Well, not kind of, it's definitely a problem. And I say that because it's what is plan B? Like I said, if your plan was to all right, we're going to bring in Holiday Bogdanovich, that'll help out the team. Because obviously they're traded away George Hill, they traded away Eric Bledsoe, so that's done. I'm cool. I don't know if it's official yet, but that deal hasn't fallen through from what I know. So like I said, that's done. You're not going to have either of those guys on the roster. Cool. So I said now you're going to have, like I said, you add in Bogdanovich to help that starting lineup. So now it's Holiday, Bogdanovich, Middleton, Giannis, and then Brook Lopez. Very solid 5, in my personal opinion. Like I said, now Bogdanovich is gone. Like, what's the plan? Like I said, Danny Green, he's a guy that you could have potentially traded. He's gone. Chris Paul, a guy you could potentially trade for. He's gone. So like I said, what's the plan B? Or did they have a plan B? Again, I think that's what we're going to find out over these next few days. Though, again, you never know. Maybe they work out maybe they work out a deal with the Bucks. Though I guess the Kingston match. I don't know exactly how it would work. Like I said, maybe there's still some sort of way he could end up on the Bucks down the line. Like I said, this was their plan. Like, we're going to get these 2 guys, and that's going to be a part of our pitch to Giannis. Like, hey, look, we think we can. We understand that we didn't get the job done these last 2 years as a team, though Giannis was a big part of that. But again, as a team, we understand that we didn't get the job done, so we're going to try to make improvements. Here are the improvements we made, and I think, like I said, I think it's worthwhile for you to see this out for the long haul. All right, cool. But now, like, one part of your pitch is now not there, is not existing. Basically, you're just pitching him on Drew Holiday, which, I mean, that's fine, but, like, is he better than Bledsoe? Yes, but, like, enough for them to get to the finals better? No. And like I said, then what are you doing at the 2-guard position? Like I said, because Bogdanovich isn't there, so you got to figure out how to find a guy to replace him, and the starting lineup potentially. Oh well, in what would have projected as a starting lineup, because obviously the starting lineup is not set yet due to the fact that free agency hadn't happened. So like I said, that's kind of a rough spot to be in, where you're just like, now there's a little level of uncertainty there, and like I said, it makes you look bad as an organization to be like, hey, look, this was our plan, and we kind of screwed it up. That's on us. And then it's like, if I'm Giannis, like, all right, well then, if you can't even figure this out, how can I trust you to figure it out once we have even less cap space when I'm signed to the Supermax? And like I said, then just from a team standpoint, it's like now the team that they thought they were going to have, they don't have. So now the team's worse in the future. So like, where do you go from there? What do you do from there? So yeah, the Bucks are in an interesting spot. They're going to have to figure out a way to kind of clean up their mess a little bit and get things situated on that front, because right now, not looking great, to say the least, for them, like I said, to have this deal kind of fall apart after, like I said, the Holiday and the Bogdanovich deal, while separate, were kind of like a package. Like that was the package they were going to bring to the table for Giannis to be like, hey, look, we're doing what we can to improve the team. And now they only have half of that package. So the pitch becomes a lot less enticing. So yeah, they're going to have to figure that out and how they're going to, like to say, correct that, whether it's with Bogdanovich or with somebody else. But right now, like I said, that's just not a good look for the Bucks, and not really a good look for a team that's trying to do everything they can to keep their star player from leaving free agency. Like that doesn't really help your case one bit. So like I said, we'll have to see how the Bucks clean that up, because it's a pretty big mess, and they're going to have to be on top of cleaning it up, because if they don't, then they're kind of in bad shape. So yeah, that's not it on the NBA news, but like I said, that's probably the major notes that I wanted to hit. Personally, like I said, there was a lot of stuff that happened, a lot of trades that went down, a lot of people moving around, and it'll only continue through the weekend, as free agency, like I said, starts at 6 p.m. on Friday. So, like I said, we're going to see more trades. In theory, we're going to see guys, like I said, signing deals, different things like that, changing teams. So, a lot more NBA news and stuff to talk about and discuss, and for you guys to pay attention to over this next weekend. Should be an interesting one. Like I said, the draft was interesting. The days before the draft were interesting. The days after the draft were interesting. So I don't expect free agency and the start of it to be any different. But again, speaking of things to watch and pay attention to this weekend, obviously, as we always do, want to preview the big games this weekend. So we'll start with college and then transition to the NFL in the last segment. So we'll talk about the college games that I'm looking forward to, at least. Right after, well, the ones that are happening, because, COVID is still out there. So we'll talk about those right after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Games, at least in terms of like top 25 games, things like that, canceled this week. But they still are being canceled or postponed, or whatever you want to call it. Texas and Kansas is being postponed. Texas A&M and Ole Miss is being postponed. Miami and Georgia Tech is being postponed. Who else is getting postponed? Louisiana and Central Arkansas, Marshall and Charlotte. So again, still COVID's still an issue, in case you didn't already know. Is still an issue, and that's going to have to be figured out. But again, more of the big games are being played as of this moment, and I guess we'll kind of see if all the big games do go down. Probably one of, if not the biggest of the weekend, is Indiana versus Ohio State. Not a game that many people thought was going to be this important or this intriguing at this time. Well, like, not at this time, obviously, but earlier in the season, when the schedule first came out, but that was before we realized that Indiana might actually be not that bad. And I guess we'll put that to a test on Saturday when they take on Ohio State in Columbus, a 12 noon kickoff. So, I mean, that's fortunate that's not like a more primetime game or what have you. But like I said, Ohio State's 20.5-point favorites, so they expect them to smoke Indiana, even though Indiana is the 9th ranked team in the country, which, again, I don't know what that says about them or what that says about, I don't know if that says about, like, Indiana, what that says about Ohio State, what it says about the rankings, that the 9th best team could be playing the 3rd best team, and the 3rd best team would be favored by 20.5 points at home. Like, that's interesting. But again, we'll see how the game plays out. Like I said, no one expected Indiana to be this good at this point, though they still, like, again, I still contend the guy did not get the 2-point conversion, so they still should have lost to Penn State, but which, I mean, who knows how it changes the course of both of their seasons. But nonetheless, like I said, that'll be a big one. A big test to see if Indiana is for real. Like I said, if they win that game, or even if it's close, then that's a big, that goes a long way in convincing yourself and convincing the other people in the Big Ten. The other, like I said, the other teams and other people in the country, they're like, oh, no, Indiana is legit. And this will be the only time we have to play Ohio State, too, because they're both in the same division in the Big Ten. So like I said, this is it. If you get it, like this is your one shot, like Eminem says, you know, and then lose yourself, like all that, mom spaghetti, like blah, blah, blah. I mean, come on, you got to know the lyrics. But you get the point, like this is your one shot. To prove to people, like, no, we are a legitimate team. Like I said, this Ohio State team is good, but it's like the defense isn't as good as it was in years past. The offense is still very good with obviously Justin Fields and like the receivers they have and things like that. But like I said, the defense, if the Indiana is able to score points and keep up offensively, then they could be in good shape. So again, we'll see how that plays out. But like I said, that's definitely one of the bigger games of the weekend. Is that one? I'm trying to think of any other big games. Yeah, another big game in the Big Ten. Wisconsin versus Northwestern. 2 undefeated teams. Obviously, Wisconsin has only played 2 games. So there's that. Northwestern is currently 4-0, ranked number 19, in the country. They have wins over Purdue, Iowa, and Maryland. Maryland, who's not going to be playing this weekend because of COVID, and Nebraska. So, like I said, not necessarily the greatest teams, but like this is the best when they're going to have a chance to get on their schedule because they play Michigan State, Minnesota, and Illinois, who are all currently 1-3. So, like I said, this is the one. If you want to have a shot at making it to the Big Ten championship, this is the game you got to win so that you can beat Wisconsin, and then, like I said, you basically have a clear path there as long as you don't lose like 2 out of your next 3, which they shouldn't. But hey, you never know. So this is a big win for them, or a big game for them. And obviously Wisconsin has been in big games and matchups before. They've blown out the 2 teams that they played so far, but they've only played 2 games, and they also have Indiana still left on the schedule, so they have more chances to showcase how good of a team they are. So like I said, this is Northwestern's one real shot, and it's in Northwestern. Or at Northwestern, I should say, 3:30 game, ABC. So again, this will be a good opportunity for them to be like, hey, look, we're a legitimate team in the Big Ten this season. Maybe not every season, but at least in this season, we are a legitimate team. So okay, that's another big one. Like I said, Maryland and Michigan State will be canceled due to COVID-related reasons. And another game that I'm interested in, even though, like I said, it's not a good matchup, is Michigan and Rutgers, because if John Harbaugh loses to Rutgers, like I feel like that'll probably be it for him. I mean, this season's probably it, regardless, just because how bad they are. Like if they lose to Rutgers, yeah, I think I don't really know how you recover from that one, big fella. But again, we're gonna see how that goes. So again, going to other conferences, other interesting matchups. We go down to the SEC. Now, the SEC didn't really have too many good games, necessarily. The matchups really aren't there. But again, Alabama's back. Obviously, they didn't play last week due to COVID, so they'll be back. See how their week off helped them. Because obviously, they didn't get to play LSU last week. And this is you want to play another game before you face Auburn. You know, Auburn's not that good, but still the Iron Bowl. You never know. Obviously, they'll get up for the rivalry game. Same thing with Florida. Obviously, Florida came off the big win against Georgia 2 weeks ago, and obviously they smoked Arkansas. And again, people thought they could potentially get upset in. Did not happen. And now playing Vanderbilt, like I said, you just don't want to ever have a letdown against a team that's 0-6. Team you're favored by over 30. Well, you're favored by 31.5 points over. Like you don't want to make that game closer than it has to be. And it's really a shame for Texas A&M because they're at 5, but they haven't played in back-to-back weeks. And we'll kind of see what happens in this coming week with that, because it's going to be tough to continue to make your case if you're making the playoff and making, like I said, the SEC championship and things like that, if you can't play any more games. So, yeah, we got to see how that plays out. Like I said, they got another week off. Hopefully, it allows them to, like I said, get everybody healthy, put in stricter protocols so you don't have to worry about this type of stuff again, at least in terms of an outbreak causing multiple games to be missed, things like that. And I said go from there. In the Big 12, like I already said, Texas is not going to be playing, so that is unfortunate. And there's only 3 games. There's only 3 games this weekend. But you got Bedlam. Oklahoma was Oklahoma State. Big one. Obviously, rivalry game. Those are always interesting. That's the late game, the 7:30 game on ABC. So that'll be a good one. Obviously, Oklahoma's playing a lot better as of recently. They start off the season very slow. Lost to Kansas State and then lost to Iowa State back-to-back week, but they are now 4-0 in their last 4 games. And like I said, this is a rivalry game. This is up there with Texas, which they did win. Yes, they did win. And I forgot that was a quadruple overtime win. Yeah, that game was wild. So after obviously Texas, you also want to beat Oklahoma State. So even if, like I said, maybe the season didn't go as you would have liked in terms of like getting to the playoff, like your record and things like that, like at least you could say like, hey, we still won, we still beat Texas, we still beat Oklahoma State. Like that's something that you can always have on your resume for the season, which is obviously what you would always prefer. And I said, if when in doubt, you want to win your rivalry games, just like in the NFL, you want to win your division games, things like that. If you have to pick and choose which games you would want to win or want to lose. So again, if Oklahoma could maybe, like I said, not have the season they wanted in terms of like their overall record, but they still are able to beat Texas and Oklahoma State, then I feel like that's considered more or less a good season. Or, like, not a perfect season or anything like that, but it's still going to be a good season. You win your rivalry game, so that'll be a big one. And then, like I said, for Oklahoma State, it's a big one because they're coming off of, well, not in, like, they didn't lose last week. I think, what was it, like 2 weeks ago? They lost. I believe, like I said, they're 5-1 now. Yeah, because they escaped against Kansas. They lost to Texas in overtime, Halloween weekend. So like I said, you don't want to go up and face the two best teams you're going to face this year and then lose both of those games. You prefer not. So like I said, this will be a good one to see if they can get themselves not back on track, because again, they got back on track against Kansas State. But again, continue. You don't want to drop your second game, both against the better teams in your conference. Again, that shows you that you're not really there yet. You're getting close. Obviously, they could finish with 2, max 3 losses. But again, if you're going to lose to Texas and Oklahoma, that shows you're not where you want to be at as a team and as a university. So I'm going to say that it should be a very good one in my own personal opinion. See if it's, like I said, the typical Big 10 or Big 12 game with no defenses, or if again maybe defenses will drop a little bit more. Also, I think, so Clemson plays Florida State this weekend. Trevor Lawrence should be back, if I remember correctly. So this will be the first game, like I said, with him back, see kind of how he looks post-COVID. Because like we talked about, like with Cam Newton and some of these other guys, like it takes you a while to maybe get back to where you were pre-COVID. So like I say, I'm curious to see, how Trevor Lawrence looks. Because obviously they're going to need him down the stretch. I mean, not necessarily to beat Florida State or to beat like Pittsburgh or Virginia Tech or what have you. But again, if you win all 3 games, you're going to play in the ACC Championship game again. You need him to beat Notre Dame, and then into the playoffs, you're going to need him to beat whoever you play in the playoffs, whether it's Alabama or Ohio State or probably not Notre Dame a third time, like Cincinnati or whoever may sneak in, Texas A&M, Florida, one of those 2 teams. That anybody that can sneak into that extra spot in the playoff. And so, like I said, you just want to make sure that, obviously, you don't need to win by like 30, 40 points or anything like that, but you at least want to win to like get yourself right, as I said, as you try to close out the season, and then leading into the ACC Championship game. So this will be his first game back. That should be interesting. I mean, now the game's not going to be interesting. I would think not, but interesting to see, like, again, how he looks coming back. And then also you got the 2 quietly unbeaten teams, BYU and Cincinnati, playing this weekend. BYU plays Northern Alabama, like they're going to smoke them, but still, you want to make sure they stay undefeated. And same with Cincinnati, they're playing UCF, who's not a bad team, 5-2. Again, they're not ranked, but they're still not a bad team. And I think according to the Football Power Index on ESPN, like they have UCF with a 56.7% chance of winning the game. So this is not even a foregone conclusion that they're going to win this game. So like I said, this will be a competitive one. Should be going 3:30 Eastern on ESPN. So again, this will be a game that the national audience would be able to see. And again, it'll be another game to showcase just how good Cincinnati is if they, continue to play at their level. Like I said, the offense has been great. The defense has been dominant. The most they've given up this year is 20 to Austin Paya. I don't know exactly how you pronounce that name of that school. But like I said, they haven't given up more than 20 points, except for that first game of the season. Consistently holding teams to 10, like last week they gave up 17, and that's like a lot. When they had given up 10, 10, and 13 and then 7 in their previous 4 games. So, like I said, if you're not up to date with how good Cincinnati is, especially on the defense side of the ball, and this will be a good game to watch because again they're going up against a pretty solid offense in UCF. So again, this is not necessarily a slouch. Again, they're not ranked. They're not as good as Cincinnati is this year, but again, not necessarily a slouch. I mean, Gabriel's got 23 touchdowns and 2 interceptions on the year. And that they should be able to put up points. You would think. So like I said, you'll have to see whether the defense can hold that. And then if they can't hold that, can the offense put up points? Which again, it has this season. But again, you want to make sure you continue to show that against good opponents. So, like I said, if you don't get to watch too much Cincinnati, or you haven't watched even Cincinnati this year, now's going to be your chance. because this should be a good one in my own personal opinion. And then I'm trying to think, anything else really that interesting? I guess Liberty, try to continue to see if they stay undefeated as well. They played NC State. Should probably win that one, but you never know. And then also USC, last team I want to talk about, just because will they, for the third week in a row, find a way to win the game late that they probably should lose? Playing Utah, who wasn't that bad of a team last year, but again, they haven't played yet due to COVID. Yeah, they've had 2 straight games canceled. Supposed to be their first game of the season. See again how they look, and if USC, can continue to find ways to win games. Like I said, they've had 2 close calls in these first 2 games. You're not gonna be able to win every game like that. But like I've always said, you don't get extra points for blowing a team out. A win is a win, and a loss is a loss. At the end of the day, you just want to find ways to win the game. That's what they're doing right now, and I guess we'll continue to see if they're able to keep that up this weekend against Utah. So after we come back here from this last break, we will switch from Saturday to Sunday and talk about the interesting NFL matchups that will be going on around the league throughout the day on Sunday. So we'll discuss those right after the break. Stay right there.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
And we're back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So on the NFL side of things, as always, there is quite a few games that intrigue me, to say the least. We won't start with the Sunday night game because obviously that's an obvious one. We'll go with one a little bit earlier in the day, 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock time slot, and that is Titans and the Ravens. Now, this is an interesting one because obviously both these teams are coming off of losses. The Ravens' offense, especially through the year, has continued to struggle for the last few weeks now. They just lost to the Patriots. Though, obviously, that one was more weather-based, but still. The offense was not all that spectacular. And obviously, you got the Colts game a couple weeks ago. Again, they played better in the second half. But still, the pass offense left something to be desired in that game as well. So, there's a scenario where the team is not performing at the level that they were at last year. The offense isn't performing at the level it was at last year. And thus, they are, again, 6-3, so not bad. But I think they finished, 13-3 last year, if I remember correctly? 13-3, 12-4, somewhere around there, if I remember correctly. So, they're basically almost at their amount of losses at this point, and they still got 7 games left to go. And on the Titans side of things, obviously, they caught the L last week to the Colts. After they've lost 3 of their last 4. Yeah, they lost to the Steelers, Bengals, and Colts, and then they beat the Bears in between there. So like I said, they lost 3 of the last 4. They're definitely kind of on a bit of a slide. So this is a big game for both of them because both of them are trying to keep pace with other teams in their division. Obviously, the Ravens are basically all but out of it at this point because they're 3 games back with 7 in play. So like I said, not impossible. And they play them next week, so that's definitely beneficial. But like I said, with Steelers being 9-0 right now, definitely is making it hard for the Ravens to have enough time to catch them. Though again, not impossible. And he says they're still trying to fend off the Browns. So they both are at 6-3 now. So both, even though they whooped up on the Browns at the beginning of the season, like right where they're at right now, they're both. They're about even. And obviously the Browns are playing the Eagles this weekend. Which I mean, if the Eagles were like playing better, like they could lose, but also like they're not. So like you probably will say the Browns. I don't know. Like the Eagles are a weird team. Honestly, 'cause like I said, if they played better, they could beat most of the teams they've lost to, but then they haven't played that good this year, so then they've lost most of their games. Just kind of goes hand in hand. So this one, you kind of can't pick on them to win, especially when you lose to the Giants. No offense to Giants, but like when you lose to the Giants, like all bets are off on me thinking you can win a game until you actually win a game. So like I said, the Browns have a much easier matchup this weekend, so there's a chance that they could, and they probably will be, or at least should be 7-3. So you're going to need to beat this Titans team to keep pace. And then, like I said, the similar thing goes for the Titans. The Titans are, like I said, 6-3. The Colts are 6-3. They play the Packers, who we'll get to in a second. So obviously tougher. I guess slightly tougher matchup. But still a tough matchup both ways. So like I said, if the Colts lose, then now you win. Now you're back on top of the division. If you lose and the Colts win, now they have a bigger gap on you in the division, which is obviously what you don't want. Though they play each other next week, if I remember correctly. They play each other next week. So again, that could be some revenge, get back, whatever you want to call it, for the win last Thursday that the Colts got over them. But still, it's just a situation where both these teams kind of need a win, and one of them isn't going to get it. I mean, I guess obviously they could always tie, but that's kind of rare in the league. So, like I said, they both kind of need a win, not only just for their confidence, but also going to keep pacing their own division. It's good. This is like it's a tough spot to be in, where both teams need a win. Obviously, only one team most likely is going to come out of it with one. So one team's going to be happy and feeling good about themselves heading into a divisional matchup next week, and the other team's going to come out of this game quite disappointed. So you hope it's not your team that comes out of the game disappointed in this one. But again, there should be a good game. 1 o'clock, like I said. As we talked about with the Colts, Packers, that's another interesting one, only because the Colts, as we talked about a couple times, they have a good pass defense. The Packers have Devontae Adams, who's arguably one of the best receivers in the league, and obviously Aaron Rodgers, who's playing extremely good football right now. Can they corral the Packers? Now, again, this game, it's NFC versus AFC, so in the grand scheme of things, does it really matter if you lose? No. But again, this is just, the Colts have a very good defense. And again, the Packers, I think Allen Lazard is going to be back this weekend, but the Packers really only have like one receiver. So, as long as you can corral him, like maybe you have a shot. So, like I said, just going to be one of those situations where we're going to put the test just how good, we're going to put it to the test, I should say, how good this Colts pass defense is, because if you're going up against an elite level quarterback, you're going up against an elite level receiver on the outside, also elite level running back. So, you're gonna have to again see how well you defend them, and if you're able to do some things on that Packers defense. It's not great, not terrible, but not great. See if they can run the ball. See if things continue to be the Nyheim Hines show, if it's Jonathan Taylor game or Jordan Wilkins game, who knows. And like I said, the Jaguars gave them all they could handle last week, and the Jaguars aren't that good. So in theory, the Colts should be able to give them a good game as well. But again, maybe it's just the matchup wise. Maybe they didn't take it seriously. You never really know in these games where it's close against good teams. Well, with good teams against bad teams. Like, you're just like, how does this happen? Basically, the Colts are a good team, so maybe the Packers will take them more seriously. But again, we will find that out on Sunday. This 4:25 game on Fox. I don't know if that's the Fox. Well, because you either get that one or the other interesting game. I'm not going to call it a big game when neither team's above 500. But another interesting game is the Vikings versus the Colts. Not the Colts. The Cowboys. I just said Colts. The Cowboys. Only because the Vikings are on a 3-game win streak. So they're going. They're playing at home in Minnesota in their dome against the Cowboys team And I believe should have Andy Dalton back this week. So again, you have that. So you're not playing Garrett Gilbert or Ben DiNucci or anybody like that. But then you're feeling yourself a little bit. Like you after losing to the Falcons, which again is kind of crazy that you lost to the Falcons, then won 3 in a row. But then they beat the Packers, they beat the Lions, and they beat the Bears. All NFC North opponents, mind you. But still, they won 3 in a row. Now I play the Cowboys. The Cowboys aren't that good of a team. Their defense, especially their run defense, is not that great. And you have Dalvin Cook. Plus, to go along with Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson on the outside. This is a game that they could win. And if they do win, now they're from 1-5. Now they're back at 5-5, and now maybe you put yourself in the NFC playoff picture a little bit more. Like I said, you still got a ways to go, but again, now you're just creeping back into contention for a playoff spot. Because then after them, you got the Panthers, you got the Jaguars, and then obviously you play the Bucks. After that, but again, you got 3 very winnable games to the point where you could be 7-5 heading into that Bucks matchup. And that's not out of the realm of possibility. But again, like I said, will put you, in my opinion, right in the thick of things for a potential playoff berth. So, again, we'll see how that goes. And then, obviously, from the Cowboys standpoint, you get Dalton back. So, again, this is the backup that you paid big money to, and you hoped that if anything were to happen to Dak, that he would be able to step in and kind of hold down the fort a little bit. And he didn't look that great beforehand. So, I guess we'll kind of see how he looks after a couple weeks off. Not a couple weeks off, but obviously he had the concussion and like COVID situation. So we'll see how he looks now. But also, like I said, the Cowboys aren't out of it in their division because their division stinks, as is well documented. But yeah, so they're not out of it even at 2-7. They're still in the thick of things. Especially with the Eagles, like I said, they're probably going to lose this weekend. So, why would you think that you couldn't compete in this division? Like I said, they're in last place right now. But the Giants have a bye, so you could be 3-7 there, and I think you've already beaten them, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you've already beaten them. Yeah, they beat them already. So, like I said, so then they could be ahead of them in the tiebreaker there. And then Washington, I think, plays the Bengals, who they could beat. They could lose to, but they all could also beat. So, like I said, there's a chance that all the teams in the NFC East could be tied at 3 wins after this weekend. If, again, like the Cowboys get the job done, Washington gets the job done. Now, every team in the division has 3 wins. It's probably, like I said, I always kind of believed it was a race to 6 at this point in the division. I don't know who's going to get to the 6, but somebody's going to have to get to the 6. And like I said, it's just like now everybody's on an even playing field. The Eagles would be if they lose, which they probably will, knowing them, they probably like pick up this week to be like good. I mean, it's stupid. The Eagles are dumb. Like I said, if everybody in the division is at 3 wins, now you got 3 teams at 3-7 and 1 at 3-6 heading into the last 6 games of the season. I mean, it's ugly, but it's competitive. So like I said, that's a interesting matchup. Again, not to say a good game. I'm not telling you guys to like make sure you tune in and watch it. But like I said, with both teams in position to fight for a playoff berth, one for their division, one for a wild card. It's a game that both teams could definitely use the win in. So, like I said, that's an interesting one. And I'm just looking to see if there's any other interesting games before I get to the late game. Well, I guess the Patriots. Yeah, I guess I'll talk about Patriots Texans a little bit. Because obviously with them beating the Ravens last week, them beating the Patriots, like I said, you get another win here against the Texans team that isn't that good, though. I mean, the Patriots aren't like world beaters this year. Now you're back in at 5-5, and like I said, you're sneaking your way back into the conversation for a playoff berth. Especially knowing you got Cardinals, Chargers, Rams, Dolphins, Bills, before you play the Jets, obviously. But you got some solid teams coming up. Even like again, the Chargers team that's 2-7, like they're better than their record says they are. Like I said, the Cardinals are obviously good. The Rams are obviously good. The Dolphins are obviously good. The Bills are obviously good. So this might be next to the Jets is probably going to be the easiest game on your schedule left this season. So again, it's a game you would hope to win if you're the Patriots. So we'll see about that. And then obviously, like I said, the Sunday night game is Chiefs Raiders. A rematch from a few weeks ago where the Raiders were able to pull off the upset. I think we were 40-32. We were able to call some uncharacteristic. No, not uncharacteristic, but like, uncharacteristic is the right word. Turnover, or one turnover, I should say. things is that, yes, the only pick that Mahomes threw all season was in that game that they ended up losing. So again, just kind of see if you can replicate that, or if that was more of a one-off. And apparently, I thought that was Andy Reid had some comment this week about how he didn't like how they like celebrated after the game or whatever. So again, I would imagine the Chiefs are going to try to score like 60 on them. Probably not going to happen. That doesn't mean they're not going to go for it. And like I said, for the Raiders, you want to prove like, hey, look, you want to prove last time wasn't a fluke? All right, do it again. Especially you did it in Arrowhead this last time. All right, do it at home. And I said, then that'll prove to a lot of people that you're legit. I'm only causing people to question the Chiefs, obviously, because they're still the Chiefs. But again, for the people that are like, oh, are the Raiders really good? This would be a good way to validate that, even though, again, you beat them once already, but just like, all right, maybe you got lucky. Like, you beat a team 2 times in the season, that's not luck. So like I said, this is a big one for them, and obviously their schedule down the back half isn't really that tough. So again, you stacking a win here and kind of banking that in case you have a slip up later in the season is big. And then also, like I said, you get the win here. Now you're only a game behind them, because then the Chiefs will be 8-2, Raiders will be 7-3. So now you have an outside chance of still winning the division. Like I said, you lose this game, it's probably done. But if you win, like I said, now you're only a game back, and now you will have beaten them twice, so you have the tiebreaker over them. So like I said, all you need them to do is find a way to slip up one more time, and boom, maybe you win the AFC West. So like I said, interesting game. Like I said, I don't imagine the Chiefs will take it lightly. I need them to, because I'm playing Mahomes and Travis Kelce in fantasy. I need this to be a Clyde Edwards-Helaire game. Or they, if they don't want to score, like if the Raiders want to hold them to like 10 points, by all means, I promise you, I will be a very happy man if that's what you guys decide to do. But because I found that to be unlikely, and like I said, I think Andy Reid and them were a little ticked off, I should say. Not just about the celebration, but also losing. Mahomes is going to try to show out. And in turn, that may mean a big day for Travis Kelce. So I am not looking forward to that at all. I don't really like watching the late games with my fantasy game in the balance. Hopefully, my guys decide to have a good week this weekend. I'm padding my lead a little bit, because, like I said, I expect this to be a kind of a high-scoring game. And if that is the case, that means Mahomes is going to put up some points. And if he's putting up points, it means Travis Kelce is probably putting up points. And it probably means I'm in trouble. Obviously, you guys don't care about that, but I do. I would prefer Mahomes not to, show out this week. This is like a calm 2 touchdowns. That's all I want. If they're both to Kelce, all right, like, it is what it is. Like, I'll live. But it's like just only like a calm 2 touchdowns. Like, I don't need 4 or 5. Like, that's not what we need. You don't need to do all that to beat the Raiders. Like, you don't have to do all that. Like, let Clyde, let Le'Veon Bell, like, let those guys do their thing. Like, come on. Like, be generous. You don't need to be selfish all the time. Like, come on, you're trying to get all your stats. I mean, come on, you're better than that, Patty. You are better than that. Obviously, I'm kidding. But, yeah, that's a big one. Like I said, a big one for the Raiders to prove that first win was not, in fact, a fluke. And that'll do it for me here today on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. Thank you guys always for listening to me talk. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top when we drop our latest stuff. Also, if you could please as well, give us a 5-star rating, write us a nice review, wherever you listen to your podcast at, excuse me. Be very appreciated, very helpful. Lots of you guys like, what you guys dislike, the ways we can improve, all that fun stuff. Also, if you're on social media, so you can find us there. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, we can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss. You can talk about what games you're looking forward to in college and pro football this weekend. Talk about what you think the best picks in the draft, who the winners and losers are. What, like I said, some of the big moves that have been made or may still be made, obviously with free agency starting this weekend. Talk about some of those, discuss some of those. Which ones do you think make sense? Which one do you think will backfire? Things kind of like that. No, and also, like I said, who do you think the best team in the NFC West is? Because the Seahawks are currently in the lead, but I think you could argue that they're still not the best team. They just they won a game, so got to give them credit for that. But that's still a legitimate argument, in my opinion. Like I said, lots of stuff to discuss. Like I said, we could talk about Cano testing positive for performance-enhancing drugs, now being out for the entire year, the entire season next year. Talk about Theo Epstein no longer being with the Cubs. I know Conor McGregor just signed on for a new fight. Canelo just signed on for a new fight. So like I said, you got a lot of stuff to discuss if you want to discuss. So feel free to reach out to us on social media and discuss whatever you so choose. We were more than willing to talk with you about anything sports-related, or anything related, really, in all honesty. yeah, so just feel free to reach out. Before I get out of here, as I always do, give a shout out to essential workers. I've been working tirelessly through this pandemic, and unfortunately going to have to continue to work tirelessly throughout this because I guess with vaccine coming late this year or early next year, and obviously I don't know how much I'm going to be able to produce and distribute to people, nor I know how much people are going to want to get that first round of the vaccine. So like I said, we're going to be in this for a minute. So like I said, hopefully, once the new administration is in there, you guys will be, these essential workers will be compensated properly, and then also the rest of us will be compensated properly once the lockdown happens. So you don't have people out there risking and doing dangerous things to keep businesses open and to still go out and about to, like I said, to go to work and things like that to make money, because without it, they won't be able to pay rent and buy food and things like that. So like I said, the government, helps us normal people out instead of just, focusing on the rich. Then, maybe we could have a lockdown and then we could get this more under control. Not to say that it's going to be gone, but it's getting more under control where it's not 100,000 cases every day. That's going to be a problem. But yeah, so like I said, doctors, nurses, EMTs, first responders, firefighters, postal service workers, dollar store workers, grocery store workers, retail workers. Like I said, anybody's been deemed essential. Shout out to you. Like I said, it's been a long year for you guys, and it's not real. There's no real end in sight for it. So I feel for you guys in that regard. You're doing a job that's very important, and not that many other people would be willing to do, or especially to deal with people that may or may not be taking the virus as seriously as they should. And you got to take it as serious as you need to, because again, that's kind of your job. So I guess it's out to you. Like I said, I know it's very stressful, and it's going to continue to be stressful. But like I said, I just want to say that you are appreciated for your work. Also, again, Postal Service, FedEx, UPS, Amazon, Uber, Lyft, Uber Eats, Postmates, DoorDash, all those different services that allow people to not have to leave their house to get certain things, whether it's food or, like I said, items or whatever, to not have to go to stores to pick it up or things like that. Just can stay in the comfort of their own home and remain safe that way. And shout out to you guys, because like I said, you're making life a lot easier for a lot of people that don't and aren't willing to leave the house, because there's no reason to, and two, just to make sure that they are safe for themselves and also the people around them, their friends, family, things like that. So shout out to you guys. Also, like I said, just wear a mask. It's not that complicated. And if you're still able to go out to bars and restaurants, I know a lot of places, starting to shut down because cases are getting kind of out of control. But if you are still able to, again, just please, if you can, tip generously. Like I said, the restaurant industry, the service industry, those places are going to be hit hard this winter, especially in the cold weather places, due to the fact that it's going to be hard to keep them open for outdoor dining thing, obviously once it gets cold. And also, like I said, even for places where it's not cold, indoor dining is probably not going to be a thing, especially as cases continue to rise. So a lot of these restaurants may or may not make it through the winter. So again, while they're still open and while you're still able to go to them and use them, same thing with the bars. If you're going to be going to those places, just again, tip generously. It'll be very appreciated, I will imagine, and it'll go a long way to help these guys out during a very trying time. Again, if you can. I'm not telling you to go beyond your means. Not everybody has it right now, which I understand. But if you can, I imagine it'll be greatly appreciated. So, yeah, that'll do it for me today. I've been Chris Blades. That has been my time. And until next time, peace out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.